everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host, John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, and its brand new Disney Buena Vista 4K Blu-ray. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about the film and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So back on November 14, 2003, here in the United States, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World was released, directed by Peter Weir, who's directed a couple of my personal favorite films. He directed Fearless, and he also directed The Truman Show. He's also directed a couple other great films as well, but you could put this historical war epic up there with some of the best of them. And he was recruited to direct this film. It was actually supposed to become a film series. They were really banking on this film being a huge success, and it did okay. I think it made $212 million at the box office, but for its huge budget, that just wasn't enough to make a successful franchise. But luckily, in the years since this movie has come out, people have reevaluated the film, even though it was a critical success at the time. It even was nominated for Academy Awards, also I believe for Best Picture. So, the critics liked it, people who saw the movie liked it, but it just wasn't financially successful. But a lot of people have come back to this film, and they've really learned to appreciate it, because it's much more than just your classic historical war epic. It's really a lot about the relationships between the characters, and that's something I really appreciated, because this could be a very simple story, with Russell Crowe and Paul Battery at the head, who had great chemistry in 2001's A Beautiful Mind. That was another film that was a huge success. This is Russell Crowe really riding the wave of success, like a huge 5-year run this guy had between, LA Confidential in 1998, Gladiator in 2000. He also had some other great films in there as well. The Insider with Michael Mann. So Russell Crowe was probably one of the world's biggest movie stars at the time, and they probably thought he could sell the film. Also, again, you could promote the fact that he's teaming up with Paul Battery again. Just seeing these two have great chemistry, and that great chemistry from A Beautiful Mind really does carry over to this film. Those are my favorite scenes in this movie, are when the two of them are just in a room talking together. Russell Crowe, anytime he's talking to someone, anytime he's doing one-on-one, it works great. Or Paul Battery's doing one-on-one with another character. Those scenes are all great because there's a lot in here. It's a very dense story. It's not just about the great epic war scenes, which are incredible, by the way. Naval war scenes, this is some of the best in film history, and it's something that's really hard to do, to shoot naval war scenes, especially period piece ones, where you probably have to recreate these ships to make them look period accurate, because it is based on a true story. These are real novels. I think there was 20 real novels written about Captain Jack that Russell Crowe is playing in this movie. So, you want stuff to be accurate for the historians, be taking place during a real war in 1805. You want that stuff to be really accurate, but you also want to portray this captain as somebody who, apparently was very much just like this, and showing the range of Russell Crowe. He can play that hothead, over-aggressive male, or he could even play that very warm and comforting male like this, but he's also very strong and stoic and stern. The perfect captain is what this guy is. He's a leader of men, because I'm pretty sure there really aren't any women in this movie. I think there's only one with a fan throughout the entire film, so this is very much a man's kind of film, but it's also not, that aggressive type of man's film. It's not something like Fight Club or something where, it's about who's going to come out on top. No, this is about, like, male relationships, and how, despite the fact we're in a war, we could treat each other with respect. We could do something nice for our fellow man. We don't always have to be that aggressive person in the room. And you know what? I like that. I like the message of this movie. Despite the fact we're at war for our country, we can still appreciate our fellow man, the guys that are around us, the younger people. Just because I'm the captain, I don't have to treat the lieutenant like dog shit. Like, I love all that aspect in this film. And, when you have a great actor at the lead, and then another great actor playing the secondary lead, these guys are great actors when it comes to emotion, and Peter Weir knows how to direct emotion. The Truman Show, it's a mostly dialogue heavy film. When you go back to Fearless, that's probably where he was able to start creating this action, because the plane crash sequences in Fearless, they're shot very similar to a lot of the naval scenes in this movie. A lot of the stuff where the two boats are firing back and forth on each other, a lot of the angles are very similar to Fearless, so I'm guessing that's where he kind of got his bearings about this 10 years earlier with that film. And I think all of that, all the tools that he created over the years, carried over to this film to create a very unique type of film. And it's really a shame that we didn't get more of these, because I think they would have been very entertaining. Because this film, I think a lot of people, including David aka Shamrock Ball, said that the knock against it for the most part, it was a very boring film, and I can see that, like, in the first act. But if you stick with this movie and you start to let it, like, unfold for you, by the end of the third act, I really truly believe you will love this movie. I'm not somebody who really even loves war movies, but I love the characters in the movie, and I love how they interact with each other. Like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is just the, Captain Jack. 'Cause Captain Jack will get you high tonight. Lets Paul Battery's character here explore this island so he can look at the bugs, investigate the bugs, because one thing I've always talked about is like, who are the people like looking at like the plants and bugs on this planet, like testing them out? There's people like Paul Battery out there, he's taking notes about it, like what they do, how they react with things. It's a big part of this movie how the one bug is able to blend in and look like a stick, like, basically for protection. That leads to our big climax at the very end of this movie. Our big epic third act is because of that. So showing like, if people aren't out there like Paul Battery doing these kinds of things, we can't have that carry over into every aspect of life. And that stuff in this movie just works perfectly. Is it a perfect film? No, it's not a perfect film. Like I said, I feel like the first act can be a little tough, but once you get into the film, I think it unfolds in a perfect way. It actually becomes one of the greatest war epics that you'll ever see. It's just, unfortunately, it's very underseen. It would have been cool to see how this movie would have became a franchise because it's got great production and design. It's shot incredibly. The score to this movie fits it so well. The audio for this movie, the audio design, is some of the best audio design in film history. There's a reason why, the original DTS HD track that we'll talk about in the physical media review is still really good because it's just a very well designed film when it comes to the audio. They used to give out 2 audio Oscars before they combined them into this, and I think this is something where like great sound design is something that's different than great sound mixing, and the great sound design for this film really works. It's just an all-around awesome film. I can recommend it any which way. Even if you're somebody who's not going to be picking up this new 4K Blu-ray, I just recommend you check out Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. I really think you'll have an absolute blast with it. And here it is, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World on 4K Steelbook. This will be replacing, I believe this is a 2015 Blu-ray. The first Blu-ray for Master and Commander came out in 2008, so this will be the replacement. The Steelbook, we only got the Steelbook here because this is a Disney Buena Vista 4K Blu-ray where they teamed up with Sony. I believe it's the third one that we've gotten after Tombstone and Kingdom of Heaven. So when you come inside, it is a 2-disc set, individual disc design. The Steelbook, it's okay. It's just your regular standard glossy Steelbook. It's nothing that like blew me away. It's very similar material, obviously, that they've used for Tombstone and Kingdom of Heaven. I wish that like they would do something like where they're altering a little bit of materials, maybe give us some matte on there, some semi-gloss, make it feel a little bit more special. It's fine. It's just not something that I would say is one of the greatest Steelbooks ever. This one, we also did receive upgrades to the audio and the visuals, which is awesome, but we didn't get any updates to the extras. Now, I know that the extras, I bring it up here on the channel all the time, isn't something that everybody cares about. The bonus features, the special features, it's not something that everybody absolutely loves. But when they sell this at a premium, and this was, I believe, $39.99, which is a lot fairer than what they were doing with Kingdom of Heaven, like putting it out there at $55 and then maybe dropping it to $41, which was absolutely ridiculous. Tombstone, very similar to this, but it was also, they had a hard time with people being able to get it. It was like hard with them. They didn't have enough stock. Well, it looks like they had enough stock for Master and Commander, so they did learn their lesson there. The price is $39.99 for this. With the lack of new extras, it's a little bit tough. All the extras are exactly the same from the previously released Blu-ray, and from what I understand is that back on the DVD, there was a lot more extras, and the making of this movie seems like it would be very interesting. Like, I would love to find out how they made this film because, it looks like they recreated these ships and everything, filmed on the water. So I would love to see how they did that. Very similar to like Titanic. That has a great making of. It would have been cool to see that. There might actually be a great making of out there, but it's definitely not on the disc. The special features on the disc are extremely disappointing. A lot of stuff that are like interactive with the Blu-ray itself. So when you put this old released Blu-ray in there and you just pack it in with nothing new on there, which I'm glad they put the Blu-ray in there. A lot of studios don't do that anymore, so they should be commended for that. But it is just the previously released Blu-ray. It's nothing new about that, so you can just check out the previously released Blu-ray and compare it to the 4K if you'd like. One thing that we did get a big upgrade in is the audio. We upgraded to Dolby Atmos from DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, and you know what? That previously released audio track wasn't bad. It was actually a really good one, and I was reading about it. That was released with the first Blu-ray from 2008, I believe, and for 2008 audio track, track, it is very good. This would have been one where I was like, if they don't upgrade it, it's not the world's biggest deal. But they did. They upgraded it to Dolby Atmos. And this is by far, in my opinion, the best Dolby Atmos track in 2025 for a catalog title. I don't know if it's better than, like, you know, Sinner's audio or anything like that, but this really gave my audio setup a workout. I mean, my God. My wife at one point was like, can you lower that? I'm like, no, it really does feel like we're in the movie theater, right? This feels epic, and I was loving the audio. I was blown away by it. Some of the best audio I have heard. I absolutely loved it. What a great Dolby Atmos track. That really is the selling point for this 4K Blu-ray, is that incredible Dolby Atmos track, because then when you get to the visuals, yes, we get an upgrade to Dolby Vision and HDR10. Another thing, I said, I didn't think the visuals were absolutely horrible on that previously released Blu-ray, so when we upgrade to 4K Blu-ray, I don't know either if this is like a brand new scan. That's another thing that information isn't out there about, so I'm not too sure if this is a brand new scan or if they're using the previous scan and like just updating it, because it, like I said, not the world's biggest upgrade to 4K Blu-ray, but still very, very, very nice 4K Blu-ray. Like 9 out of 10 visuals. You know, we're hitting the deep blacks. A lot of stuff takes place at night or in like the clouds and everything like that, so it might be a little difficult to see the previously released Blu-ray, but everything is so sharp now. Everything looks crystal clear. The colors do pop off the screen. Everything you could ask for in a beautiful new 2025 4K Blu-ray. You know, again, not perfect. I wouldn't say this is like Searcher's level of quality, which I've noticed that with Disney, Buena Vista, their Sony team up, is that, you know, they don't actually hit those 10 out of 10 visuals. You know, they've all kind of looked very similar, where the visuals are great, but not the greatest. But they're charging a price like these are the greatest 4K Blu-ray releases. Really, what they're charging that high price for is essentially that these movies are being held hostage by that. You know, eventually they're going to give us Fight Club on 4K Blu-ray, and they know that that's one of the most anticipated movies to come to 4K Blu-ray, and they'll charge an arm and a leg, and they'll put the previously released Blu-ray in there, and they'll just probably upgrade the visuals and audio, and that is it. Like, they even reuse the same exact menu system, which isn't a good menu system on the 4K Blu-ray. So these 4K Blu-rays are some of the most highly anticipated 4K Blu-ray releases out there. Yeah, and unfortunately Disney and Sony aren't treating these like the great 4K Blu-ray releases that a lot of the fans are. They're treating these like very good. They are. Like, they're putting a lot of care into them. They're just not putting overall the greatest care into them. They're still a major studio. They're going to cut corners wherever they can. They're not boutique studios, but you charge boutique level prices, I expect the same exact care that Arrow Video puts into their 4K Blu-ray releases, which I still think are the mountaintop. But they will never lend these out to boutique level studios, so unfortunately we'll never get a 10 out of 10 in my opinion from Disney and Sony. You know, Sony on their own gets pretty damn close, but Disney, you know, there's a reason why they're Disney. They're one of the companies running this planet, and they do things like this. They're never going to be fully there for the fans.
All right, now get out there and make me some goddamn money.
But they did give us enough here for me to give a great score to this 4K Blu-ray. I'm going to give this one a pretty damn solid 8.5 out of 10. But this one definitely could have been a 10 out of 10. So let me know. Are you guys picking up Master and Commander on 4K Blu-ray? Did you already get it? What did you think of it? Leave those answers in the comment section. While you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel membership, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like Ben Rondo, Harvey Scott, and John Doe Juggalo, you could do that. Or you could even become a channel director like Stone Gas Man, Uncle V, Kevin Kruger, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and Nicholas Head. Or you can even bump it up to the channel bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, if you got no money to throw my way, don't worry about it at all. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.